Hello to all the listeners. My name is Dylan.
And I'm Dylan.
And we would like to thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. And if you do enjoy, please drop a like and subscribe for our weekly podcast, or even check out the clips that we post from each show.
You can also follow us at our Twitter on screen and then tune in each week Wednesday night for our weekly podcast streaming at That Dill on Twitch.
Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome one and all to another podcast. Another week, another bunch of stories that we're going to cover. We got everything on the docket from the NBA with the whole LeBron controversy, kind of first impression of the playoffs, first two games under the books. Let's see how everybody's doing. We're also going to talk NFL, a lot of Aaron Rodgers stuff. He finally spoke up basically about Jordan Love and the whole situation, which we'll show on screen and talk about it. We also, Julio Jones is on the trade block. The 40-yard dash race was awesome as well. Koepka hates DeChambeau, and we're here for it and can't wait. So we're going to talk about that. And then we also are huge, obviously Marvel fans and everything. So we are excited about the Eternals trailer, which came out, and we're going to talk about that as well. So starting out straight up with just the right off the bat first, we're going to kind of talk about the playoffs. So the Lakers, in my opinion, will be fine. They lost the first game against the Suns, and everybody kind of freaked out and was like, "Oh, here we go! It's the downfall of the Lakers." It's LeBron. It's the way that they've always done it in series. I mean, I've watched LeBron too much to know that he is not going to lose the first or second game and not win the rest of the series if he has the better team, which is, in my opinion, they have the better team. So I'm not worried about them whatsoever. The way that, they're playing and everything. I mean, we saw game 2 was way different than game 1. Game 2, Anthony Davis decided to show up and not let DeAndre Ayton basically come over for the whole game. So that was obviously an improvement. But overall, I mean, it's just, that's how he's always played his playoff series. I mean, if you watch him with the Cavaliers, if you watched him with the Miami Heat, they would lose the first or second game even of the series and then immediately bounce back and win the series 4-2 or win the series, 4-1. So I don't have a doubt in my mind that the Lakers are going to advance past the Suns. I like the Suns. I would love for the Suns to make it past the Lakers. I just don't think that they have the firepower and the basically the players down the stretch to be able to answer for LeBron and AD. And when that Lakers team wants to, they can play the best defense in the league. So, it's one of those where I'm not worried whatsoever about how they're doing. And I'm not, exactly. He always plays in unnecessarily close series, and that's just the way he's always been. I remember back to when, it was for a minute, every Chicago Bulls fan was like, oh my God, we might actually beat the Miami Heat. When Derrick Rose hit that game winner and walked off, and everybody was like, we have a chance, we're 2-2, and then I think we lost the next two. So I'm not surprised that they lost the first game. He always does that. It's almost like he's gauging the series.
Game? Yeah, it's exactly what I was gonna say.
Exactly, 100%. That's how it feels every single time. It's like a feel out. Like he plays the game, sees how the flow is going to be, see what their offense is doing, what they're trying to do, and then it's like the next game, it's like, all right, we're the Lakers. Let's start playing well again. I'm LeBron James. We're going to start winning. And that's just kind of how it goes. So I have no doubt in my mind they're going to win this series. Like I said, I would love for the Suns to make some noise and actually, win the next one maybe, and, give the Lakers a run for their money, because at least then it makes it a fun series. But I really do think that I would be surprised if the Suns win another game. If not, if they do, it's only going to be one more game. So, and it's going to be one of their home games.
And didn't Chris Paul get hurt too? Is that something that I saw?
Yeah,
as well?
he was on the sideline icing his shoulder. Yeah. Something about that too. So it's one of those where, again, it's the Lakers. It's LeBron James. They're going to be fine. I'm not, first round LeBron James does not get knocked out when he has a team as talented as he does with AD and Drummond. And when Drummond wants, he can rebound over anybody on the Suns roster. When AD wants, he can defend anybody on that roster. And when LeBron wants, he can be LeBron. So, it's one of those where I'm not worried whatsoever about them. I am worried, though, about the Clippers, because the Clippers are just being the Clippers and doing Clippers things and just trying with everything in their power to do everything possible to not win, even though they're always they always seem like the better team, which is just the way that it goes with them. They're always like they always have the ridiculous amount of talent and then just don't back it up. And that's the way that the Clippers have always been. And yeah, just Clipper things. I mean, what do you have to
Fun
say
meme.
about that? Yeah. Yeah, so they're gonna do, by the way, the Dylan, that's the Nets. You're looking at.
Yes, it is. I threw that up very quickly.
The Clippers one I think is oh, maybe I didn't send you the Clippers image. That's all right.
Oh wow, look whose fault it is now.
Yeah, I know it's my fault now, straight up. So, anyways, yeah, Clippers. Um, they're just going to be the Clippers. They're just not going to win games that they should. They're not going to play as well as they need to in order to to dominate like they should. I mean, you have two of the best defensive players in the league, two of the best two-way players overall in the league. Kawhi Leonard, when he wants, is probably the best player in the league when he wants. And I'm not saying that he is the best. We can argue about Durant, LeBron, whatever you want to say, but he could be one of the best if he wants to be. And he just doesn't end up doing it down the stretch enough in order to like make me, which is funny because when he was with the Raptors, I mean, that Raptors team was really good. Don't get me wrong. And they were also going against an injury prone or like an injured Warriors team. But
Right.
they were really good. They definitely deserved to be in the championship and they deserved to win it. And Kawhi was a big reason why. It's just sad because I don't know what happened when he went to the Clippers, but him and Paul George just they mix so well during the regular season, and then when it comes to the playoffs, they just can't put it together. I don't know what it is, but it's just bad. And they can never finish down the stretch. So it's just, it's one of those where I'm just like, I can't say that the Clippers are ever. It's how I feel about the Bucks, too, is that until I see it, I can't, I can't believe that they're going to do anything, make any noise, or actually be good this year. It's the same.
Don't want to get your hopes up too high, too easily.
Yeah, every single year it's that way. So it's just like, oh, this is going to be the year for the Clippers. They're starting to put it together, and then they don't show up in the playoffs. I don't know why that is the case. Yeah, and I'm sorry, but that leads me into my next point too, which he's saying I've been a Giannis fan since Giannis came in the league. I told my friend will vouch for me. I told him on draft day when Giannis got drafted that kid was going to be good because I'd watched a lot of him in Greece. And the thing with Giannis and the Bucks is that down the stretch, when you need points and you need a shot, they don't. I mean, Middleton's their best option. And that's, I'm not saying Middleton's a bad player by any means. He's a good player. It's just one of those where, unfortunately, Giannis doesn't have a shot. Like we watched LeBron drain that three, down the stretch. Yeah, I mean, Drew Holiday, but like, ideally you would want Drew Holiday and Middleton to be your 2 and 3, and you want Giannis being able to make that shot. But when Giannis doesn't have the shooting capabilities of some of the other players in the league, like a Durant or a LeBron even, or any of these guys, it's hard for them to make shots down the stretch. Even if they're down a little bit, it's hard to come back when they need to start making a couple threes. It's just the Bucks are just, unfortunately, they're just such a well put together team, but they just don't put it together. It's like they're a well put together team that can't put it together. I don't like
Just executing.
Yeah, it's
good
just,
on paper.
it's just, exactly. I mean, every year Giannis is like ridiculous, and you're talking about how basically he's one of the best players in the league, if not, again, up there as the best. And then he comes to the playoffs, and it's one of those where when the team focuses defensively on just Giannis, and then you have basically Middleton and Drew and all of them going. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, that's the way that it goes. Is there's just not enough support around there, and then like I said, Giannis just isn't. He just isn't trustworthy enough to make shots down the stretch without driving or trying to go to the free throw line, or which is fine and can be viable, but it just hasn't. And I think part of that is because they don't have guys that can stretch the floor as well as some of the other teams in their conference, and even just in the NBA in general. So it's one of those where it's, unfortunately, they're always just kind of good enough to be in the top 3 in the East, if not the best in the East, and then they just can't put it together or do it enough in the playoffs to make a difference. And they're up 2-0 right now in the Miami Heat, but I suspect the Miami Heat are going to come back and even that series. And it's one of those where it could go into a shootout into the game 7 where we're trying to figure out who's going to be the better team. And in my opinion, I trust the Heat to make shots down the stretch more. So unless Giannis and the Bucks come out and close out the series quickly, if they let the Heat come back into it, I just would be afraid that the Heat would be able to finish them out.
Yeah,
So
did I forget what was the most recent blowout? Was that did the Heat get slapped? Someone got slapped in like a game I think that happened yesterday.
I mean, the Nets beat the Celtics pretty bad.
That was it. Yeah.
That's probably what
Okay.
you're thinking of.
Oh wow, what a great transition! I don't know how I'm so good at
What a
that.
great transition, Dylan, into the Nets, who are just playing ridiculous. I mean, the Nets are as good as advertised, and that's what we've seen at least in the first two. Oh yeah, the Bucks did. Yeah, the
46?
Bucks did dominate in that game. Like I said, that's my only fear is that if they do get past the Miami Heat, I don't know if I trust the Bucks going, deep into the playoffs, because I just don't know. They do this where they look really good and then somebody figures out defensively how to stop, Giannis enough and, basically not allow him to get a shot. And then when that happens, you're trusting Middleton and that team to spread the ball, and they just don't have the shooters to be able to do it. And Giannis doesn't have, unfortunately, Giannis doesn't have the shooting ability that like a Durant or LeBron does, where they could just pull up from three, and so that threat's there, so then they can get their drive when they need it. So, it's like I said, it's one of those where I wish that the Bucks would be better, because I'm a big Giannis fan and I always have been. I have a Giannis jersey; he's one of the only basketball jerseys I have in my closet. It's unfortunate. I just wish that they were better. And granted, yeah, they've looked really good these two games, but like I said, I'm worried that potentially if they don't close out the Heat fast enough, the Heat might be able to get back into the series, and this might go to a game 7. So we'll see. But anyways, to go back to the Nets, yeah, yeah. But the thing about playing in the regular season is like the Lakers looked like a joke in the regular season, but the Lakers are going to be fine in the playoffs. Like it's just that's the way it goes. Like the Lakers, people were like, "Oh, they're done this year. They're over with." They're playing for the 8 seed and whatever and 7 seed. But then now I'm like, yeah, the Lakers are probably going to come out of the West. Like it's just that's the way that it goes. The Lakers figure it out. I just don't know if the Bucks can do that in the regular season.
Side
in
note,
the playoffs.
where's Rondo now? Is he on the Nets?
He's on the Clippers, which the
Clippers,
Clippers,
that's right, okay.
he was supposed to playoff Rondo was supposed to help make the Clippers be better and be better in the playoffs, and guess how well that's working out.
Yeah, not so great.
Granted, Rondo actually played pretty well last game. It's just that the Clippers are the Clippers. So, but anyways, transition back to the Nets. The Nets are just as good as advertised. They're ridiculous. They're going to be ridiculous. They're again, basically these games, they're just gaining experience. That's going to take them basically deeper into the playoffs. So I don't think that the Nets are going to be knocked out, in my opinion, of the playoffs until maybe the championship. I think honestly, if I'm looking at the playoffs right now, something tells me it's going to be probably Nets, Lakers, and Lakers being there again might not help. Might not make people happy, but in my opinion, I feel like that's just the way that this is trending. Is I feel like the Lakers will figure it out in every series, and then come down to basically where the Nets I think will beat them in the finals, because the Nets are just overpowering. And it's one of those where the only detriment that the Nets have that might hurt them from advancing is the fact that they just haven't played together enough. And that, we talked about that before, where they've only been healthy for 8 games in the entire regular season that they played together. So it's one of those where maybe an experience with each other hurts them enough to be defeated by either, the Eastern Conference champion team or in the finals. It's just one of those though where I don't really suspect that that's going to happen, just because the Nets are just too talented and all of them are shooters. It's one of those where even if they don't have the experience, we're playing with each other, and the kind of know how where you're going to be, and when we're running up the court and stuff like that. At the very minimum, they're all just great shooters and scorers. So that's the name of the game right now, obviously in the league, with there being less and less defense really being played. And I don't think any NBA fan's going to really argue with me on that, but there are great defensive players in the league. I'm not saying that's not the case, but there is less and less defense and more scoring. And when you have 3 of the best scorers in the entire league, if not the 3 best scorers in the league, that's just going to happen. You're going to be able to make things happen regardless of how well you play together.
Yeah,
So,
and like I haven't really followed the Nets specifically, but it's like I know that one of their concerns obviously was like chemistry and everything. Like, is that starting to figure itself out from what you've seen so far, or is that still like a big issue that they have to worry about?
no, I think it's one of those where it's going to figure itself out as they play more. It's just they're too good to not like they're too good to have bad like chemistry issues. Like they just because they're all shooters. And then the other thing too is you have some playmakers where Kyrie is a point guard, so he's fine distributing the ball. James Harden has been basically playing as a point guard for most of his career, so he's okay with also bringing up the ball and everything. And so it's one of those where I think that overall they're going to be fine and they're going to figure it out. If you want to pull up the picture, yeah, there you go. So I think they'll be fine. I think their chemistry issues they'll figure out and they'll start to play better. And I think by the time you get to the Eastern Conference Finals or even the finals, after that, I think the Nets look, as good as possible because I think they're just going to gain experience playing with each other. Unless there's an injury, unless there's like something that happens, an injury, just having a bad night and they just argue with each other, which I can't foresee happening, but who knows, honestly. So unless there's a bad night or something like that, I expect them to be in the finals and I expect them to basically be the heavy favorite against. It doesn't even matter who they're playing against.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
and then
This series.
yeah, and then the next series that's kind of intriguing as well is the Trailblazers versus the Nuggets. So the Trailblazers, as much as I love the Trailblazers, and I always think that they're going to be in a series no matter what, based on just Damian Lillard and his shooting ability. I just the Trailblazers. I love Damian Lillard he's one of my favorite players again in the league. It's just not going to happen. It hurts watching the Trailblazers every year because every year they're just so good and you love Damian Lillard because he's awesome and he plays so well. But they just will not be able to. They just don't have enough talent. That's plain and simple. They just don't have enough. They won't be able to get it. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes in the league. It's a star driven league. We all know that. And when Damian Lillard, is your best star, and yeah, I mean, you know, what's his name? CJ McCollum is, a good running mate and everything. It's just, yeah, exactly. They're just that's the
That
way
is a
that it is.
great analogy.
Yeah, they're the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals always had AJ. Andy Dalton and AJ Green were fun to watch, and they were good enough to get in the playoffs. But they're not going to do anything. Like it's just not going to happen. That's not how it works. The Trailblazers just aren't good enough. They just don't have enough talent. I almost wish Damian Lillard left to go to a team that was better, but he's too good. He's too loyal, and he's staying in Portland. And unless they're able to get him like a second big superstar, it's
Yeah.
just not going to happen for Damian Lillard, and it's unfortunate because he's going to be one of those talents that just kind of never. He's going to be like one of those players that's like the best player of the era that never made it. That never made it to the finals or never won a championship.
But he's got like a really great situation too, though, at the same time, right? Because like he doesn't have to worry. I feel like the pressure is almost removed, and it's almost like a bad thing, I guess. But obviously, he's still getting. I think he's still got the supermax, right? So obviously, he's paid. He's very well paid. He's fine. And if you're not pursuing that ring and leaving, I feel like if you leave and you go somewhere, you're immediately expected to have results. And like it's the harder choice to stick with a team that may not get the chance to win, but at the same time, the fans still love you for staying there, but they also don't expect you to win a championship, which is kind of nice in a certain way. So I feel like he just gets to do his own thing, and I'm sure if you're like, an NBA level competitor, that's got to grind on you. But like I feel he feels like he's in a low stress situation because of that. There's not really a lot of losing except when they get knocked out in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's well because like I don't know if they really expect, like you said, I don't really think that they expect too much of them
Yeah.
because they know that the Trailblazers are just basically kind of at a disadvantage already as far as talent goes. Because really, it's you can say Nurkic is there and everything, but overall, that team is basically Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum makes some shots here and there to help out. That's basically it. That's the way it boils down. When you watch most of their games where they lose by a little bit, it's just because they just don't have enough firepower. They just don't have enough defense, enough firepower to deal with these teams. And it's unfortunate. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think that there's something to be said about him staying with the team and the pressure not being as great when you're with a team that's really not expected to do or make, go as far as
Yeah.
other
Not a
teams in the
contender
league.
necessarily.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because it's just like I said, he's very clearly one of the best players in the league and has been, probably deserves to be in like the top 10 players in the league, maybe even the top 5 every year. It's just his teams are just never good enough, and it's not his fault. I mean, half the time the dude's just shooting from the freaking logo and draining it, and what is he supposed to do? I mean, like, and the other thing too with the Trailblazers, they always have an incredibly well fought series, and and then and like they'll win in like a game winner, or Damian Lillard hits like you saw last year or the year before with the Clippers where he hit the game winner over Paul George, and you're always like, oh, that's great, that's wow, what an incredible victory. But then it's one of those where they go to the next series and they're kind of drained energy wise because they just gave everything they had into the previous series to win it. So it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of how they play out. And so I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think Denver figures this series out and ends up winning probably in game 6. I would assume it probably goes 4-2, and then Denver moves on, and we'll see how far they can go from there. I don't really know if Denver has championship. They are definitely good enough to make it to the championship. In my opinion, they've got the MVP of the league in Jokic, so they're definitely good enough to make it. I just don't know. I don't know if they'll be able to overcome like the Lakers or a team like that ends up getting there. Really, you have to overcome the Lakers to have a chance. I think the Nuggets could handle most, if not all, the other teams in the West. I think it's just the Lakers that would be an issue. So, whenever they do meet in the playoffs, inevitably, which I think is going to happen, if
Right.
they get past the Lakers, then I could see them going into the finals. But the problem is that then again, you have to get past the Nets probably, who are going to be there at the end in the finals. So, and the Nets are not the last year's, Miami Heat, where the Heat were just drained and didn't have the energy to play, basically.
And
So,
injured.
yeah, they were injured. They weren't, they were run down. Jimmy was literally your last drop of energy to win like 1 or 2 games out of that series. It was just,
Really
it was like
entertaining games though, especially
yeah,
Jimmy
oh
Butler.
yeah,
Those were great.
yeah. The ones with Jimmy Butler was just playing like Jimmy Butler can when he wants to. It was amazing. It's just he ultimately at the end of the day can't do it. 48 minutes a game every game. So that's
Yeah.
just the way that goes.
Yeah. And what
But
seed were what seed are the Blazers?
oh man, I think there were. What seed were they?
To ask Google. Just kind of curious where they were 6th in the Western Conference. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha. And if you also want to see
interesting.
more about the Jokic being MVP, you can check out the YouTube video that is currently up there, where I think we speculated and already talked about that. But anyways, into the next thing, which
Hold on,
is
hold on. Oh,
oh, go
real quick
ahead.
too. Also, shout out to my cousin. My cousin Sam gave me a drink from down south called Pulp Friction, and it is very, very good.
What is it? Is it a let me guess, it's a fruity IPA?
Yes, it is.
Oh
It's
wow, so that's
an
good.
IPA with grapefruit. It's really good.
That does sound
Honestly,
like a good combo.
it's fantastic, and it actually like in my opinion that would be great, like especially during like the summer. I feel like.
Yeah, grapefruit IPA. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yep, love it. So, all
I
right.
need to go ahead and get myself something a little bit here. Currently just sticking with water, but yeah.
Come
I
on, Dylan.
I know it's a podcast requirement at this point, but yeah, let's see. MLB news, I think next. Hold on. If you like sour beer's tripping hazard from Wanakee Brewery is amazing. I would
Tripping
have liked
hazard.
that when I just was up in Wisconsin, like not more than 2 weeks ago. I could have picked something like that up. Does sound
Yeah,
good though.
we were there.
Yeah, I also the spotted cow. I didn't put that in the fridge. So disappointing. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, I wrote that beer down so that way I can get that for sure.
Write it down on the
So
side.
I did.
Good.
Tripping hazard. Because I go up to obviously Wisconsin a decent amount, so I can get it. But anyways, yes, move over to real quick. Just we're not gonna talk too much baseball because I don't really have too many baseball topics because we kind of we
Been
did a
ripping on
lot last
baseball
podcast.
recently.
Yeah, we did a lot of baseball last podcast, and you could just go watch my frustrated rants with baseball and the sport I love and everything I hate that they're doing. But anyways, this was just funny. This is just something that I thought was hilarious. So I this is like, did you see the fights that broke out and the fights that have been breaking out throughout the entire league this year?
No, are people just like super angsty from not being out?
I
Where's
don't
this
know.
coming
I don't.
from?
I think it's part people are angsty from not being out, and I think the other part is that like when you're in the stadium and you're yelling at like the team or the fans, like nobody hears you except for like like maybe the nearby people, or if your voice does carry, nobody knows where it's coming from really if you're like a couple rows over.
Yeah.
But like now you can very clearly see where somebody like it's coming from. And
Yeah.
there was like a week or two ago, there was that whole thing where I don't know if you saw did you see the video of the guy knocking the other fan out?
No.
That oh my god, it was incredible. It was like this dude, they're yelling from like they're yelling basically at each other from like a couple like a section over. And the dude goes walking probably a good like 30 to 40 feet and just yeah, the Rockies fan just walks like 30, 40 feet straight towards this guy and nobody stops him, nobody says anything. And he just, as soon as he reaches the other fan, just sucker punches the dude right across the, just knocks him out, like instantaneous knockout. This
From
dude
what?
like
Was he just
flopped
antagonizing
over.
him? Was he just talking the whole time?
They were just probably going at each other. It's like I said, it's one of those where you just say like, oh come on, this sucks, and then you go back and forth, and then normally you don't really see it happening elsewhere, but then it happens. You're seeing it now because there's not enough people to like drown out the noise or at least be like one of the crowd. So then like you can very clearly see who's talking some crap, and that just happened to be it, and it was absolutely hilarious, and I am 100% down for it because it killed me. It really did. I like watching that, like he just watching him just walk straight up to the dude, and as soon as he reaches him, just knocks him clean out. And then there was a couple other fights too that happened in like previous games. I can't remember where, but then this happened at the White Sox game. There was two fights. One was a guys fight. It was like two guys fighting, and it wasn't really anything crazy. But then there was this fight, which was like three chicks going at it, and like two dudes trying to stop it from happening. And these three girls were just like hair flying, hair pulling, like punch straight up, jacking each other in the face. It
My
was it
God.
was it was awesome. It was just crazy and ridiculous, and it killed me. And I just wanted to just talk about the fact that like, is it really COVID that's like made and made everybody just frustrated? And this is why we're suddenly seeing all these fights pop up because it's like at like baseball games too, which like granted, like I think this fight happened in like the ninth inning, so like obviously everybody had plenty of alcohol at this point,
Right. Of
but
course.
just absolutely hilarious. And there's a video too if anybody's interested to go watch. It's like 8 seconds and you can see like a couple different angles, but it just cracks me up so bad just with the way that the fights are lately and everything. It's so great.
They played the Rocky theme. The Sox may be liable. Yeah.
Honestly, if they played it, like if I was trying hardcore to be like just a meme as like a White Sox like announcer, I would just play that song in like the eighth inning, like middle of the like between the stretch or between like the top and the bottom of the eighth, and then just watch the mayhem occur as like the people who finally like who have gotten enough drinks in them and have been so annoyed with whoever is there or whoever's yelling at them just finally get it and go, yeah, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get up. Like that's it.
I feel like
So
there's going to be
great.
so many more incidents of that happening, just with people wanting to be outside and getting, not being in the best environment. They're going to lose their
Yep.
minds a little bit. It's been a little while. Win your fights, your ticket refunded. That would be mayhem because people would be trying to just destroy each
yeah.
other.
People that would be mayhem because people would immediately start like using whatever they found around them. Like we'd be watching like somebody jam like a hot dog down somebody's throat. Like it would just be mayhem and not in the good way.
Yeah.
Like fights are fun from afar because you're like, oh, let's watch those two idiots go at it. Oh, that was pretty crazy. Well, good luck getting into any sporting event whatsoever in the future. But at least like then nothing happens. It's just a couple punches, whatever. I mean, in that one guy's case, he's knocked out cold. But it's just like, and then like you start doing that, and like I guarantee people are going to be starting to like somebody catches a foul ball and drills the dude next to him in the head. like with it. Just
I mean, look at the dude in
yeah.
the top left or whatever. He looks like he's having a great time because he's getting an extra fight. People in the background, everyone has their phones out. Everyone else is having a good time, so like, just go forward with it for sure.
I'll tell you what. Tell you what, though, if you do that, the souvenir bats sales are going to be through the roof.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way. Wow, that's a good marketing strategy. Definitely stick with that.
Not a good marketing strategy.
A good one to have.
Oh God! All right.
All right, I need my meme education. So walk me through this one as I pull up this video. Do you want to watch the video first, or you want to?
Yeah, just play the video. No sound. Make sure it's got. Oh well, I guess
it's gonna get striked anyways if it is. To be honest.
Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be so great. Yeah, shout out to whoever this person is.
Among TV, very good intro. Thank you.
Yeah, wow, a lot of movement, a lot of shaking. Good job. Here we go.
Oh, and it's a small video.
Golf course was asking a lot from you
today,
Dylan. Brooks. What were you?
Doesn't matter. Just watch.
Put up that nice number.
Watch as Brooks Koepka just gets mad by the sheer presence of Bryson.
Going to putt well with this wind. It's very tough. I don't know what other guys have said, or I just felt it difficult to read. Sometimes.
Nope, there it is.
Sometimes
I just hate him so much. It's so great. I love that these two just do not like each other.
I lost my train of thought.
All right,
yeah, he literally just on live TV. He says he lost his train of thought, and that guy knows what's up. He knows that he hates him with a passion.
I honestly wouldn't even care.
It's just so great. Yeah, and then
legendary.
This is just the meme right here. It's so good. So apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently these two are not friends whatsoever.
Yeah.
And apparently I've been taking shots at each other for a couple of years now, and it's funny because I just love the freaking video. And this video, I guess, actually was like not recent. I guess it was taken from a little bit ago, but like it's now becoming viral. So, here it is.
I know, I was seeing that everywhere. I was like, I had no idea. What event are they at?
So I don't know what event they're at specifically for that one. But basically, to kind of lay out the stuff, because I read an article and everything, and kind of went over like a little bit of the history. Apparently it all started back in like 2019 when Brooks criticized Bryson's pace of play. So in PGA, it's not really well known amongst like casual fans or just people watching, but PGA guys really take it to heart when the pace of play is not like up to what it should be for professional golf. Like they do not like when somebody takes way too long to like tee off or something like that. It's just keep the flow going, keep the pace of play going. We're all professionals kind of thing. So yeah. I guess Brooks Koepka just he probably didn't like Bryson DeChambeau to start. He probably doesn't like all the crap because DeChambeau started this whole like he's called the golf scientist, which we did a video on. If anybody wants to watch,
call back to that.
Yeah. But anyways, he's called the sports scientist or the golf scientist because he literally spent just to give a little bit of history for everybody that's watching and maybe doesn't know, Bryson DeChambeau basically came out of nowhere. He was a good young golfer, but then what he did is he started doing things that kind of challenged the norms in golf. So essentially he made all of his irons in his bag the length, I believe, of his 6th iron, if I remember correctly. And the reason why is to keep it all the same, so that way he tries to limit his variation in his swing as much as possible. He also changed his swing a little bit, so that way it basically, if you go look at the way that his swing goes, it very much eliminates any movement that you could have within the swing that would maybe affect it or change it on a swing to swing basis. So he did that. He also spent like 7 months in COVID working out like 4 times a day and put on like 60 pounds of muscle. And he went from driving the ball like 300 yards pretty consistently to like 340 yards consistently. And I'm pretty sure he drove one I think he drove one like 390 before. Like he's not far away from that like Happy Gilmore 400-yard drive that everybody kind of talks about, or 400-foot drive. So he that's all basically about him. And because of everything I just talked about, he kind of blew up in the golfing world, and he kind of became a popular name because he's younger and everything like that. And so that's kind of where all that comes from. And yeah.
Oh, it's from the US Open last week.
US Open last week. Okay. So it is very recent. So essentially that's Bryson DeChambeau. So you can kind of understand why maybe some golfers who don't get maybe as much or talked about as much that have good games themselves, such as Brooks, don't are kind of annoyed with the way that DeChambeau's fame has kind of risen, even though he hasn't won like a ton, like he hasn't won as much as some of the other guys on the on the tour. So I can understand where maybe that there's a little animosity there coming from it. But the other thing too is that kind of keeping that in mind. In 2019, apparently Brooks, like I said, criticized his pace of play, and that's kind of where this all sparked, I guess. Is then Bryson DeChambeau basically said something along the lines of, he said this to Brooks's caddy, said basically, you need, or why don't you tell him to tell me, or tell it to my face next time. So that was like a shot back at Brooks. And then I guess Brooks appeared in the body issue of Sports Illustrated, where basically they're, it's all, they picture athletes nude, in the mid act of whatever their sport is. It's part of their body issue. It's been that way every year. People participate. Apparently Brooks did, and apparently Bryson made fun of like him not having abs or something like that in the video, or like saying his body was better. I don't know, something like that.
Oh, petty. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just petty stuff. Well, then apparently Brooks shot back with like a photo and was like, "These are the only 2 abs I need," and it was like his 2 championship trophies from his like 2 majors that he won. So like, it's just that like kind of stuff is funny. And then apparently they go back and forth. Like apparently there's just comments made about each other's just put play and all that and things they do. Oh, for him about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, I did not see that. So
breaking news.
Huh?
I said breaking news on that side.
Yeah. Breaking news. You need to go check it out. Oh, yes, I did see there was like a Tom Brady matchup between I think it was like Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers in a golfing thing, which I'm all for, because that was like the Peyton and Manning one, or the Peyton Tom Brady one. That was awesome. So that would be fantastic. I did hear about that actually. That is going to be awesome. I will definitely watch that for sure.
Oh yeah, look at this. I could throw that right up here. Because I saw this too. I don't know if you're referring to the tweet that it was about the Tom Brady sent out. Brady was ruthless with that meme. Yeah, okay. So that's the one I was gonna address. Let me pull up this fancy little graphic here. So that could be put on there. But oh yeah, I think it was on Tom Brady's tweet, whatever. It's calling Aaron Rodgers a Jeopardy host, and I think that was the gist of that one. Yeah, Phil and Brady versus BD Rogers. Yeah, Brady and Brooks. Wow, he's got a lot of memes out of here already. What?
Oh man, I can't
pull up a live feed of Tom Brady's Twitter. Apparently, his social team is going to work.
Listen, I mean, the way that they did it versus when him and Manning played against each other with Woods and Mickelson was awesome too. So I'm all for it. I'm excited. This is great. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna watch this. And honestly, I love these events. They're just so good for the golfing world, because they do bring like just a fun about it. Like even like non-casual fans who don't know anything about it, like NFL fans that don't watch golf very much, like will want to watch this just for the sheer like fun, the fun of it and all and everything.
Oh yeah, especially like when it was during COVID and everything. That was like, it was literally primetime TV because of what else was like going on, which was nothing. It was actually happening. But yeah, no, that brought a lot of people who never watched any golf before.
Yeah, and it's great. I love it because I'm a fan of golf, and me and you got to get out there sometime soon for sure. But it's one of those where I'm all for like celebrities playing against golf, because you always talk about like, oh, I would love to see, for the longest time it was like I would love to see Tiger Woods and Mickelson go head to head, and they did with them, and it was awesome. Like that's so much fun, and that actually brings people that may or may not be like actual fans of golf or fans of just sports in general. It brings them into the picture and makes them actually want to like watch the events because of that. So.
Yeah, and these were the tweets I think you're referring to. They're up here. You put out a couple of memes already. Also using the same format, so gotta love that. Oh
yes, I did see these. Okay,
this one, that's good. This is the one I think you're talking about. Grump, I believe. Let me pull up that side. That one say? The Packers kicking a field goal down 7 in the background. Aaron Rodgers in the front.
I feel like that this could be used so hardcore for anything Aaron Rodgers and then the Packers. Like anything the Packers do. Like this is literally I almost feel like this is a low-key like straight up image of what Aaron Rodgers looked like when Jordan Love was drafted by the Packers.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is how it looked. Thank you, Brooks Koepka, for just making an absolute fantastic meme for the future. I just can't wait. What a great sequence that is.
Those
So
are
awesome.
perfect.
It's fantastic. I love it. Love the back and forth.
Yeah, can't get enough of that.
Anyways, I'm definitely excited about this match. I'll definitely watch it for sure. Can't wait. Love Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson coming right off of a major win, and of course Rodgers and Brady. That's just all fun and games right there. So I'm excited, and we'll 100% be watching. And whenever the podcast comes on after that, guess what we'll be talking about that week?
It's not that far away, too. Yeah, wait, what? Oh, that's July 6th? I could have sworn I looked at that. No, yeah, okay, July 6th. That's what I thought. I was thinking next month is July already.
God, Dylan, don't make 2021 over that fast. Come on.
I know. I thought I was just telling Tessa it feels like it's like still the first month of 2021 because it feels like a reset.
Oh God, it's so weird. It's like the fact that I think about that like we're about to head into June is just wild. I can't handle it.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous for what's going on. Yeah, so definitely be watching that. And then the boy, I'm interested in talking about this. This story went back and forth so quickly with the whole the phone call and the Julio Jones trade rumors. It flip-flopped back and forth. It was like it was legal, it was not legal, is it a two-party state, is it not a two-party state? And then it was like, oh, he did it on purpose, and like the day after, and it was like, oh, is his agent obviously going to be leaking it to, give himself some leverage, which I mean, that weakens your trade leverage and they would want to get rid of you less. But yeah, I'm very interested to see where this goes. I still couldn't figure it out. I really don't know at this point.
I think basically, so I know I watched the call basically live. It was like not too long after the call happened. I was like watching, and they like I saw a clip of it on there basically of the call happening and everything like that. So I was like, okay, there's a couple things. So one, this could be a PR stunt. Obviously, Julio's friends with Shannon, if he's enough to call him. This is one of those where it could easily have been set up where, they made Shannon aware and Shannon knew and all that. Now, I have heard, obviously, that, and I'm sure the whole sports world has heard, basically, that Julio apparently didn't know he was on the call, which is also one of those where I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think it is, really. If I'm like actually looking at this, I don't think that I think Julio knew he was on the show.
Yeah,
he's not going to call him. Like, if you're watching the show live or even just like know that the show's on like middle of the day TV and Shannon randomly calls you in the middle of the day, it's just one of those where I'm just like, you had to have known even if it wasn't planned. But I do feel like there was a planning to it. But I will say though that overall it is intriguing to see where Julio could end up. So I do also find it funny that there was like talk about like he's not going to get a first for him, or they're not going to get a first for him, or they were asking for a first initially or something
before
like
the draft,
that.
I think.
Yeah, and then they want like a first for him. I think they could get a first potentially. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a team like the Ravens, for instance, who need a wide receiver badly. And yeah, they did draft one, but like obviously, if you're going to get Julio Jones, why would you ever complain about that?
Right.
Now I know the teams that have been kind of listed to him. The whole Patriots things was fun. I don't know if you saw like the whole Patriots talk and basically how he could end up going there, which would be wild. You want to talk about a team that goes from 1 year being a joke to the next year being like, holy crap, this team has a lot of weapons. If they got Julio Jones, I'd be so annoyed because it'd be like the fastest rebuild in history of like sports. And
they weren't even a joke last year was the thing too. Like before Cam got COVID, like that Seahawks game when people thought the Seahawks actually had a decent defense, like that was actually like primetime TV and fun to watch before they all fell off and fell apart and everything. But like they could still run the ball like really well. They just couldn't pass it at all. Like at all. In putting the pressure on that run game, they still were able to, I mean, they finished 7-9, right? And they weren't like a
Yeah.
trash team at all. So yeah, they could very quickly flip things around. We were covering the draft. They put a bunch of money into free agency. They got Hunter Henry, right?
Yeah, they got Hunter Henry, they got Jonas Smith,
Yeah.
both two of the best tight ends in the league. And then you go ahead and build, you trade back for Trent Brown. So Trent Brown's back, so that bolsters that offensive line. They got rid of Joe Tooney, yeah, but they have a guy waiting in the wing who's also a good, promising young player. So their offensive line's really good. And then you have who else did they pay for? They paid for a couple different defense. They added a safety, they added a corner, they added pass rush. They added Judon, Matthew
Oh yeah,
Judon, who was
right.
one of the better pass rushers last year. They added him in there. There's a lot of things that the Patriots did to improve. And then you have to remember too that they're getting like Dante Hightower back. And then not only that, but they have Cam, he's got another year in the offense and a lot better weapons now.
Yeah.
So the Patriots are one of those teams that they're going to be really good this year. And if Cam doesn't do it for them, then Mac Jones is going to come in. In my opinion, Mac Jones isn't going to play this year. I don't think he will, because I think Cam will be fine. I think Cam ends up playing all 17 games. And I think the Patriots end up going like, I want to say 10-7, 11-6, maybe at their best.
Okay.
And I could see them making the playoffs, as a lower seed, but being like a dangerous lower seed.
Okay. Yeah, no, I could see that
So-
too, especially with expanded playoffs and everything.
But I would, anyways, to get back to the Julio talk, Julio on that team would be ridiculous. And automatically, I would think that if Julio joins that team, they're winning at least 11 games, if not 12. That would be my
Ooh.
bet. Because they're just too good, like at that point. Because then they not only do they have the speed, because they have a lot of wide receivers that have speed and are good route runners. They just don't have like a big guy. They don't have a good, like a go-to big wide receiver to throw in the red zone and everything like that, and go up and get one. So yeah, exactly. The Patriots should be banned. Honestly, it's like I said, it'd be the quickest rebuild in history to see the Patriots end up getting Julio after getting Hunter Henry and Jono Smith and adding receivers that are young, quick, guys. I can't remember their names at the moment, but regardless, they added them. Their offensive line with Trent Brown, Charles Menu. I can't remember exactly what his name is. He's taking over for Joe Tooney. They're going to be so good. Oh, you think Cam is done?
I'm more on his side, to be honest with you. I thought
Do
it was
you?
funny when there was like the rumor about Julio wanting to play with Cam, and I was like, you can't really catch balls if they're just like constantly throwing 10 feet in front of you in the dirt. Like that's where his arm was at. It looked like. I mean, that's what I see all the time. That's what I read, and obviously I watched a few of his games last year. But like, man, his arm looks hurt. Like and I don't know. There's so many different things because it could have been COVID. Like all people are like, oh, he was looking great before COVID. He was able to run. He was able to pass. Maybe it messed him up. But like that arm has gone through some damage. There was actually a clip that I saw recently that was like from the 15-1 season against the Falcons, where he just like takes hit after hit after hit in like one single run. It was like a great run for 15 yards, but he got messed up, and like that was from one play. Especially doing that for like, years and years in Carolina and getting those hits. I don't know.
That was the problem with Cam there in Carolina is that he was, uber talented and everything and was able to take the hits every game. But it was one of those where you were just waiting for him to finally, take that final hit that, puts you down for, significant enough time where you have to change the game that you play. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's too many weapons around Cam now for him to succeed. Like, I do think though that like I agree if Cam doesn't show enough in the first like 6 games, I could definitely see Mac Jones coming in and playing the final 10 games easily. Yeah. Because if they talk about how Mac Jones is as smart as he is, freaking Bill Belichick's going to love that and going to eat it up, and he's going to run basically a very similar offense. I mean, if you look at the offense he built, it wouldn't surprise me that he goes the route of Mac Jones, because if you plug Tom Brady into this offense right now, it's the same old classic Patriots offense. Have good receiving backs, 2 great tight ends, quick wide receivers to run routes, and then a good offensive line. That's literally what he built over and over again for Tom Brady. So I wouldn't doubt it if Mac Jones came in and suddenly played, 10 games straight and won, went 10-7 on his own.
Yeah. Okay, so that's an interesting thing that I never had heard of
Yeah.
before. First of all, the Cam wakes up at 4:20 thing, hilarious, and also the fact that if you I remember that was from a graphic, right? I think I saw that on Twitter too, of him basically it said that he was getting 5 hours of sleep or less, and it was just oh, work hard, grind hard, all that stuff. But man, if your body's not healing that well, you need to sleep. And it was wakes up at 4:20, goes to bed at midnight or 11:30. Just a crazy thing that was a Sunday Night Football graphic. So I do like that. But also, yeah, if he traded Cam Newton to the Raiders, that'd be dirty. I'm not gonna lie. If he's coming back and he's super excited for the Patriots, and you're just gone.
Well, that trade's not going to happen until middle of the season. It's not going to happen until Bill is confident that Mac Jones is going to be able to take over.
Sure, yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's basically, if Cam Newton doesn't play, it's because Bill's confident that Mac Jones is going to be able to take over and be better. That's until he's confident in Mac's ability to pick up that offense and run it to the liking of Bill. I think it's Cam's job to lose. So that's, and I could see if Cam actually played well and, was able to improve upon last year and actually start throwing the ball and completing passes and everything like that downfield, I could see him starting all 17 games and being fine. And then Mac Jones coming in next year, which I think probably would make Bill happy, because that would probably give him a year to teach Mac and learn him up, and then next year he comes into the offense and is playing ridiculously well, which wouldn't surprise me at all because it's the Patriots and why not?
They do.
But I think if a trade happens where Cam Newton gets traded, it's probably going to happen early to mid season. It's probably week 6, week 7, and that's only because Mac Jones is taking over because Bill's confident in Mac Jones being able to run the offense better than Cam. So it'll just depend. It's Cam's job to lose is basically what I'm saying. Unless Mac blows you away in, training camps and preseason, which I don't think he will. Mac Jones is more of the player that once you get him out there and he knows the offense, he'll be able to run it well. He's not a player that's going to blow you away with the arm strength or the making plays happen and, preseason and stuff. So, but yeah, I know if the Patriots got Julio Jones, that's it. Call it a day. I can't believe the Patriots are the Patriots, and Bill's done it again. I mean, literally, when the whole Bill is there's just another level to Bill and how he's able to run his teams. I mean, just look at the way that he dealt with Gronkowski. Gronkowski was not playing in the NFL. He did not want to play a single game ever again for the Patriots, and somehow Bill turned a player that wasn't going to play for him ever again into a draft pick. It's ridiculous. I don't know what he's playing chess while everybody's playing checkers, and that's just the way it's always been.
Well, don't forget, Gronkowski also had the other side of that, where if you got traded to the Lions, you said you'd straight up retire. So that was just, so you got something for him? That part's great, for sure. But yeah, I always thought that was interesting, too. Straight up was just threatening retirement. Atlanta trades him to New England. General Sherman will rise for the dead and burn the city down again. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think the whole sports world will just collectively roll its eyes.
Yeah, I think the schedulers would be pissed if they didn't get Patriots in more primetime slots after that would happen.
Yep.
I forget how many primetime games they have this year. We didn't really break down their schedule, but yeah.
Listen, Patriots fans last year were finally knocked down a notch, and then this whole offseason has just been last year the Patriots fans all got knocked down a notch and they were all just all dead, and then this is literally the Patriots fans now after this whole offseason and Julio Jones. It's
yeah,
we're back.
One bad season to recharge.
Yeah, that's it. It's just one bad season, and then we replenish the entire team in the offseason and trades and draft. Let's draft a quarterback that we everybody was like, hey, the Patriots, even me, I was like, oh, the Patriots are going to trade up in the first, to get their quarterback, and then Bill's just sitting there I'm just going to wait.
Yep,
he'll fall. I don't have to worry about it.
I really wanted to know how they how they were looking at Justin Fields as well. Always interested to see how teams like that we're
I feel
keeping
like
in mind.
basically what it was is I feel like Bill was happy with either one, and I feel like it was one of those where whoever fell to him at
You can make it
15
work.
was gonna, yeah, he would pick.
He's got contingency plan A and B, and he just had them on file on the side, and he's like, oh, either one. Oh, it's that one. All right, guess it's B. Guess it's A. 1A, 1B.
I mean, you've seen Patriots, and you saw like the Bears war room, like the Rams war room, and all that, and then you see Bill Belichick, and he's just sitting by his like Shiba Inu like draft, or not Shiba Inu, but whatever his dog is, just drafting. Like he's just like, here's a treat, and like, oh, our pick's up. All right, we're gonna take this kid who's gonna be a stud.
Yeah.
And then just like puts it in, and then is like, good dog. Like Bill just does not care. He's just gonna draft somebody in like the late rounds. It's gonna be amazing.
Which, by the way, question for Mr. Aaron in here as well. Did you see the was like the leaked picture, or whatever, that the Cardinals had Tevin Jenkins in the background, like of their war room or something, and they like tried to blur it out, but it's like just distinguishable enough that you could totally tell it's him. I think they had it against Deshaun Ferguson. Thank you for that.
Burger shot.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that a little bit earlier today.
What's his? Wait, no, I'm sorry. What's that guy's name? Oh man,
the
Darisaw.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, Burger shot Ferguson.
Yeah, I just saw that earlier. Thought that was kind of interesting, but
yeah, that's funny.
What is this pick?
Oh, all right. Let's talk about a fun topic here. This is actually really fun. I don't know. So you didn't watch this, then, is what you're saying? You didn't see this?
I didn't see this. No.
This is awesome. So basically, I don't know who put this up. I think it was Bleacher Report, like made this happen. But essentially, what happened is all four of these players: Justin Jefferson, Devin White, who's the middle line. So Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver for the Vikings; Devin White, the middle linebacker for the Buccaneers; Henry Ruggs, the wide receiver for Las Vegas Raiders, as well as McCole Hardman, the wide receiver for the Chiefs. All had a 40-yard dash race, where basically they all ran a 40 to try to outdo each other.
Right.
So now, since you haven't seen it, who do you think won? So 40-yard dash.
That's a hard one. Give me the names one more time.
So it's just Justin Jefferson, McCole Hardman, Henry Ruggs, Devin White. Tell me who won and what the order of what the order was.
Okay, the order's going to be too hard because that name retention doesn't exist in my memory. Who I think won, I'm going to say Justin Jefferson.
Okay, you are absolutely wrong. Justin Jefferson came in dead last.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So
damn, he must have more athleticism to
basically the race happened. Justin Jefferson, so this is a 40-yard dash. This is their times. Justin Jefferson ran a 4.5, a 4.5 flat, which is not great, but not terrible. Devin White, the middle linebacker for the Buccaneers, ran a 4.37, which is
what?
Yeah, it's not surprising. I mean, if you watched him in college, I mean, that man flew. And when I say flew, I mean, he flew across the screen to tackle anybody that was in range. And that's why you saw him in the Super Bowl just flying around.
Yeah.
So yeah, he ran a 4.37. Henry Ruggs ran a 4.26. So, obviously pretty good.
4.26.
Yeah. And then McCole Hardman ran a 4.22.
Wow.
So
that's honestly a name that wasn't really on my map, but now that's going to stick. So
who?
Nicole Hardman.
Oh, he's the Chiefs. Can't see the Chiefs.
He's like a side character to me. He's not a primary. He's not an antagonist or a protagonist.
Well, that's because he played a lot in like the slot and stuff. Because you had Tyreek Hill, you had Sammy Watkins, and then there was McCole Hardman. And McCole Hardman, though, is like literally he's one of the fastest people in the NFL. Clearly, as you can see, running a 4.22, pretty fast. So he's only like 24 years old, 25 years old too. So
I was expecting to hear Tyreek Hill as being part of it in my mind when I didn't hear the names.
Nah, he wasn't a part of it. It was like they built it up on Twitter, so I'm sure it's like they're probably friends and they wanted to get it together just because it was fun or something. But I love it. I would absolutely love for this. I wish this was a thing that would take place. I mean, these guys just did it for fun. I wish this happened every year in the freaking Pro Bowl. Like, I wish this was like one of the skills challenges. Let's just have like a couple players, like hype it up all year, like, nah, I'm the fastest, nah, I'm the fastest. And then at the Pro Bowl, bam, let's run 40, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and you don't even have to do a race. Like, you don't even have to have them line up against each other. Just literally have them, you know, run a 40. Or if you did want to have them line up against each other, do that too. So, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's literally LSU, Bama, Georgia. Yeah, oh yeah, because McCall Hardman went to Georgia. That's right.
Wow.
So,
That is literally insane. I guess so. This is an interesting question. This is an off the field type of event, right? If someone was injured, is usually the case for all these reasons why these things don't happen more often. This would fall into the same sort of thing as I think that Broncos player as well, where it'd be like they don't get any compensation and they're not covered, right?
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure because it's not a team sanctioned like event or like thing, or you're at like a team sanctioned facility.
Yeah. Is that the same in the NBA for like the dunk contest, 3-point contest, stuff like that? Because I never thought about that.
I think if you get hurt in one of those, you're okay. But it's also just different. It's also just like different circumstances, different rules, and everything like that. The NFL, you know, happens to have this weird situation with which isn't right. What happened to the tackle for the Broncos is ridiculous. Because they basically were like saying that, like, you know, oh, he was working out outside of office hour, you know, outside of our hours and stuff like that. I was
thinking of that.
Yeah, office hours is where I went to, but he was like working out outside of everything, and it was one of those dumb things where you're like, yeah, but like everybody has to. Like, what do you not want like players to show up like underweight or like overweight? Like, people have to show up in shape. Like, I mean, there's literally stipulations in people's contracts that they have to show up under certain weights or like at certain weights. So why are you not surprised that they're going to work out in the off season? That's how it is. They're basically expected to without it being an actual listed expectation, which is why the whole situation with the Broncos tackle was stupid, because he lost all this money to an injury while he was working out outside of their facilities, because of course he's an NFL player, he's got to work out. Like, so that whole thing was stupid. The Broncos, it was a dumb, I don't even know why the Broncos would do that, to be honest. It doesn't make any sense. It's just the Broncos being dumb, and it's Elway being dumb. I don't know why. Like, even just for the sake of your own like, not, what's the word I'm looking for? Your own respectability,
Protection?
but like, no, like your own
ego.
Not what I'm looking for. But anyways, even for your own, like, the respect of the rest of the players and stuff like that, it doesn't make any sense for them to cut a guy and make him lose a bunch of money because he was working out off the record for you guys, and then expect everybody to be okay with it. It makes no sense. It was a dumb move, and it's the Broncos just shooting themselves in the foot again and again with all the dumb things that they do. So stupid. But anyways, yeah, I don't know how it would be if they had gotten injured during this event. I don't know if it was like a sanctioned event, like if this was at, you know, teams' facilities, or maybe it was at like the teams knew about it and approved it. You know, I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's like one where they have to seek approval from the team, and then once the team approves it, it's kind of like a thing of like, hey, if you do get injured, we approve this event, so it's okay, kind of thing.
Yeah.
None of these guys were in danger of ever losing their job, though, like if they did get injured. So like,
yeah, that
also plays a factor into it. Like, if, you know, Justin Jefferson, Devin White, Henry Ruggs, or McCole Hardman injure themselves, there's no way that they're getting cut randomly, you know, by their team. So it's that also could play into it. I don't know. It's still fun. I love it, and I hope that they would do this more.
Oh, yeah.
But I do see what you mean there, especially with the Broncos situation happening not too long ago. Which, by the way, speaking on that, did you see the cap number for next year?
I did not.
Oh my God, it's up 30 million.
Was this recent news? Really?
Yeah, they literally, I think it was today, actually. I saw it. They agreed upon, I think it was like 206 or something like that, or 208 for the cap, when the cap right now is at like 173.
I thought it would be a much more gradual increase after everything. Like, I thought that was the whole thing. Those are usually tied to network TV deals and stuff. Did they re-up and then we're good? We're just going forward?
I guess because their TV deal is about to kick in, isn't it? next year?
I think so, and I think this is over the projected rate, like assuming COVID didn't happen and you go to the normal increase for every year.
Mhm.
This might be more. I think it's like an average of like 10 to 11 mil each year is added on. Maybe that's too drastic, but that's a big jump.
I did see a thing too, though, that also the I think it was like 30 of 32 teams. I don't know who the two teams that were that didn't, but I think it was like 30 of 32 teams ended up saying that they were going to be at 100% capacity. So that plays into it too. That like you're going to have those ticket sales and everything there. So I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those where I'm not surprised because the TV deals are kicking in and everything, and they especially everybody kind of knew it was going to bounce back. That's why we were joking at the beginning of this whole thing that we were joking at the Colts and Broncos are the ones that again Broncos making just an being the odd man out. But anyways, no, we talked about at the beginning of this whole free agency market, we were making fun of the Bears for signing players to 2-year deals because 2 and 3 year deals because we were like, hey, you guys do know the cap is about to explode the next year, and that's why everybody's signing 1-year deals because then they'll have a bunch of cap space. Yeah. I guess we'll still have cap space, so who cares? Because it's going up 30 million.
Yeah, that's like an entirely different topic. But the Bears they're gonna look very different in 2022, at least the way things are looking right now. But
because you have to imagine. So if we're gonna go there, we might as well go there.
Hold on, before we go there.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to save that for later? Or do you want to go into the update on the Packers situation?
Yeah, let's go into the update on the Packers situation because it's interesting. It's funny because I heard this quote and it was one of those where it's Aaron Rodgers like voicing his opinion in
it's been the Kenny Mayne interview, by the way. That was the origin of this. That was actually a really good interview.
It was a really good interview, and it was Kenny Mayne's last day on SportsCenter, and it was hilarious because did you see the way he ended the interview?
Yeah, I did. I thought that was good.
Basically jokingly telling Rodgers to go F himself.
Yeah, that was because of crypto and everything. He's like, yeah, he told me all this bad stuff, and now we're down 40%. Yeah, go F off, Aaron Rodgers. You'll be gone. Yeah.
And Aaron just died laughing because he just knew it was it's Kenny Mayne. But anyways, yeah, this whole Aaron Rodgers thing. So he basically talked about how it's not about the Jordan Love pick. It's basically about the overarching everything that they've been doing. It's essentially is what he's saying.
Which is like totally fair. That's like the best conversation ever.
He's not wrong. I mean, the whole rest of they haven't picked a skilled player in the first round of the draft, like wide receiver or anything, in like 16 years, like 16 or 17 years.
Yeah.
Like, get somebody to help him out. And like you lost Corey Lindsey, your best, one of the best offensive linemen that you had, your second best offensive lineman, and then you replaced him with a rookie, and you think that that's going to be better, like or that's going to work out. Like
Packers fans still blame Rodgers. I can't believe it. Yeah, I know. That's because they're spoiled and they haven't had a bad quarterback in 20 years.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I don't understand why. Well, I know, like for instance, I watched the Pat McAfee show. And on there, they have he's a big Packers fan, and he just absolutely is just pissed at the team itself because he knows the team is basically just pissing Aaron Rodgers off, and that's what they've been doing. They've literally every single year the Packers go into the offseason going, okay, how can we improve our team, but how can we do it in a way to piss Aaron Rodgers off as much as possible? Yeah. Like. It's just so stupid. Like Matt LaFleur's there. There's the whole conversation with Matt about, there was all the rumors about like, oh, LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers hate each other. And then, they gained a respect for each other and then they played well with each other. And then literally the first draft Matt LaFleur he drafts Aaron Rodgers' replacement, a backup running back and a backup tight end who's going to play fullback a little bit. Like that's literally what they did the next year after going to the NFC Championship and losing because you can't stop the run. Instead, the Packers went, hey, we can't stop the run, and we almost made the Super Bowl because of that. You know what would help us? Getting a backup quarterback.
I mean, yeah, it's just amazing the number of times that they chose to just ignore their obvious gaps. I mean, like even in the past draft, I guess they kind of addressed it, but I just could never believe how much they're trying to do something innovative, right? They're trying to do something different. Like, oh no, we know better than you. But like when they lost to the 49ers in the championship and got absolutely stomped on, they were like, oh, okay, your run defense sucks. Like you should definitely try to address that. And like, yeah, they didn't, it wasn't their number one concern, you know, that was, I know they drafted a couple of linemen, but it's just so strange to me. I don't understand how they operate. I think they just have been spoiled for so long that they haven't had to address the quarterback position that I don't know. The brain power is just not wasted somewhere else. It's inexplicable. I don't get it. Traded up for a quarterback. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. They traded up to get Jordan Love. That wasn't like he waited, he fell in your lap, it was too good to be true, you picked him. Like, no, the Packers literally actively traded up and was like, we're getting our guy. When you trade up to get a quarterback, you get your guy. That's not how, like, don't, you know, the Bears trading up to get Justin Fields. Why do you think we've talked so much about how Justin Fields might be the starter day one? The reason why is because when you trade up to get your a quarterback, he's your guy. That's it. That's your quarterback. So the fact that they traded up to him to get him is part of the problem. I mean, that's the ridiculousness of this whole thing, is that they traded up to get Jordan Love. That's their guy, their replacement on a quarterback that has a 4-year contract already on the books. So even if you waited out Aaron Rodgers' entire contract, Jordan Love, you would have to pick up his 5th-year option and then hope that he produces well enough in 1 year as a starter in the NFL in order to sign him to a massive deal immediately after, because you'd have to, because the contract's up. So
Yeah.
it's just, it didn't even make any sense. Like, and if Jordan Love is your guy and like that's who you want moving forward, I would accept that if you didn't already have Aaron Rodgers. I've always said trading up to get your guy is okay. Like, that's fine. Go get your guy if that's who you want. But the problem is when you have Aaron Rodgers on your roster, you don't need to trade up to go get your guy. Your guy is sitting across the desk from you and asking you, for the love of all things holy, give me somebody other than Devontae Adams to throw the freaking ball to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, you know, and everybody keeps talking about like, oh, MVS had such a great season. MVS is getting Aaron Rodgers throw the ball, or Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to MVS. So don't tell me that MVS is this great wide receiver and is doing it all and helping out and really is, you know, he's a great deep threat and he's one of the best deep threat wide receivers in the league. No, he's not one of the best deep threat
He's a product
in the league. He can get open, yes, and he does have above average speed, but he gets a lot of great balls thrown to him because he's got Aaron frickin' Rodgers throwing him the ball.
And
like,
I think that was my point that I was trying to stumble through beforehand was, I mean, they were betting on Rodgers declining, and they just got caught with their pants down. Like, that's pretty much just what happened. The timeline matches up perfectly, where it's like, okay, they can go one more year behind him, and then he has an MVP season, and they go, all right, well, we can't bail out of this like at a peak, right? And then we have to go and change from there. Maybe like Kyler Murray being drafted at number 1 and not playing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then it's even worse now because there's all the talk about like Jordan Love not being there. Like, people talked about how basically Jordan Love is like far behind his development of what they hoped. Like, this is the guy you traded up for. This is what really like broke the camel's back, is when you traded up for Jordan Love. I know Aaron Rodgers is saying that it's not about the Love pick, but it is. It's about the Love pick. And he has every right to be angry about the Love pick. When you almost make it to the Super Bowl and then the next year your team decides that it needs to trade up to get a quarterback to replace you in the future, what else are you going to do besides be pissed? Like, I don't know what Packers fans expect from Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers should request a trade. He should want out of the freaking city that doesn't appreciate him anymore. It doesn't want him there. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
And he brought up that in the interviews as well. The only like faction or group he didn't thank was the front office. It was the fans, it was the players, and it was basically the epitome of like, I forget. I think that like teams and stuff forget about like what actually consists of them and what makes them so great, and it's usually people. And then he didn't mention the front office or anything at all, a la pretty much Jerry Krause and the Bulls type of thing.
Yeah.
Like literally almost page for page. That something I read, that wasn't something that was unique to me, but yeah, very similar to that as well. Yeah, it could be the Raiders' death-like spiral. Yeah, I hope so. Like, that would mean there'd be 2 rebuilding teams and one like that is a somewhat contender in the Vikings. I don't know. The Vikings, they're not rebuilding. They're just kind of there. They're the new Lions, I hope.
It depends. It depends.
Yeah,
Maybe Kellen Mond is there, you know?
check out the YouTube video. By the way, if you haven't liked the stream or followed by now, please give us a follow. We're on our way to 50 followers. I think we just went up to 16. So thank you for that. I think that might have actually come up, and almost to affiliate status. So thanks for that as well.
Yeah, thank you everybody. But
yeah,
and like this is the sad part too. Is we're two Bears fans. Like we're two Bears fans arguing about how pissed off we are for Aaron Rodgers. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I agree. Like part of the problem is the not having an owner. There's all the like love for like the own for the team for like being owned by the people, and there's all that history there, and it's really Green Bay is really not a big market as far as like anything goes sports wise or anything, but it's such an historic franchise and a storied city and everything and relationship they have with the Packers that I get it. I get all of that behind it. But yeah, not having an owner that can put his foot down and say, listen, I don't care what you have to do, keep Aaron Rodgers happy. Like that is part of the problem. I mean, that is part of why it's spiraled out of control, because you get guys that come in Gunta Kuntz or whatever the hell is their name is.
That was a good pronunciation.
And freaking LaFleur, who just are trying their very best to win with the team they have and prepare for the future, that like it goes against everything in football, even in general, like in sports, even like you could prepare for your future all you want, but if you don't win a championship, like this is the conversation that we had in sports about the Philadelphia 76ers, how every year it was trust the process. They're tanking for good players and it will be good. Don't worry. Yeah. Well, where are we? I mean, where are the 76ers? I mean, yeah, the 76ers are a good team, and Embiid was up for potentially an MVP trophy. Are they going to win it this year? No, they're not. I'm sorry. I don't care. 76ers fans out there, this is a big shocker to you. You're not going to win the championship. I don't know what to tell you. It's
all
not
10
happening.
of you out there.
Yeah, it's not happening. So and we're in the same ballpark here with the Packers again. It's just, it doesn't make sense why you keep saying, oh, well, we drafted those players because they're going to fit our scheme and my offense and my team that I want to build. And then you do that whole crap with the freaking Aaron Rodgers, where you draft his replacement, you draft the running back, and that is going to end up being a backup specialty back who's a power back. And then you draft a tight end who might play some fullback for you. It doesn't make any sense when you have such glaring needs every year and you don't address them. Then don't be surprised that you don't end up getting it to the Super Bowl, because I don't know what to tell you. You have an MVP caliber quarterback, and get him help. You know why Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers? Because the Buccaneers have a ton of talent and a ton of players. And you know what the Buccaneers did to help Tom Brady? They went and returned all of the players that he played with, and then added some players in the draft.
Yep.
They
had something that was there, and they needed one last piece that didn't absolutely suck, a la Winston, and they got him.
Well, and for instance, why aren't the Packers stretching the money to sign Leonard Fournette? Why aren't to help out Aaron Jones? Why aren't the Packers trying to take a chance on Antonio Brown? Why aren't the Packers because they just don't help out Aaron Rodgers. I mean, why did the Patriots, what did Tom Brady do with the Buccaneers, or what did the Buccaneers do for Tom Brady? They went and got, Leonard Fournette. They went and got Antonio Brown to play in the slot. It's not like they needed another wide receiver. They had Scotty Miller, but they went and got Antonio Brown. Then they go and get Gronkowski. They make a trade for Gronkowski. They go and get, the guy to help him out. They had two tight ends on their roster. They had Bray, they had OJ Howard, who were both really good, tight ends. What did they do? They went and got Gronk, because guess what? Get as many things as you can, get as many weapons as you can, and it shows out in the Super Bowl win.
Yeah. Why don't players want to play with Rodgers like they do Brady?
I think it's part like the team has to want you kind of thing too. Like players probably do want to play with Aaron Rodgers, because getting the ball thrown to you, from Aaron Rodgers is going to be great. But it's one of those where if the Packers aren't willing to do anything about it, aren't willing to make the trades or make it happen. And yeah, Tom Brady is probably a little bit more, I don't want to say he's more liked around the league maybe than Aaron Rodgers, but Tom Brady is, doesn't have as much of the controversy.
Yeah, that's a way to put it too.
Yeah.
In fewer words, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Without saying what I was saying, that's basically, kind of why Aaron Rodgers is not as well liked. But it's also, it does also have to do with the fact that the Packers just, like I said, every year their plan is basically how can we piss Aaron Rodgers off and how can we not get him help? Like it's just, I mean, this year they drafted a cornerback to replace, like they signed Kevin King. They have Jair Alexander. They signed Kevin King, who we talked about in our analysis breakdown of the NFC Championship as being like one of the worst corners I think I've ever seen in football. And then they re-sign him, and then they draft a corner to play across. Like, yeah, I guess that's filling a need, but like you had more like glaring needs than just the cornerback. Like, yeah, Kevin King doesn't help, in coverage and stuff like that, but it didn't help you in that game. But also kicking a field goal didn't help you. Also, not giving anybody else for him to throw to for the love of God didn't help you. So, like,
Yeah. They just don't seem to ever want to take that that like all like chips all in move. Like I don't remember the last time they've had one of those. They've always been like safe signings, hometown signings, things that make sense, extensions that are very straightforward. Their line's always been good, so like good for that and all that, but they don't have those explosive like, okay, this is it, like all or never, like we don't care about the money on the back end of this contract. They're winning a Super Bowl or like they're blowing it up and we're moving on. Like you'd think that would have happened like last year. You think that would have happened the year before that if they really thought he was declining. And I guess you don't invest in someone who's declining, but like he's even in a decline, he was still more than enough to win if they actually did those moves. But they didn't. And they never really, I don't remember the last time they've done that. To be honest, I'm trying to think of one. I really can't.
Reggie White.
Yeah, Reggie White. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's unbelievable. It really doesn't make any sense to me why it's not surprising again that we're here in this situation, and that it's boiling finally over, and you finally have an Aaron Rodgers that's like, you know what, I'm not putting up with it, because he literally had an MVP season. We're not talking about a washed up quarterback who is on his decline. We're talking about a guy who just had an MVP season. Like that's not something that it happens every year. Doesn't to like a team, like you don't get, like there's plenty of teams that probably haven't had an MVP caliber quarterback in maybe 30-40 years. We're one of them. So and then the fact that you have an MVP caliber quarterback at the age of what, 35 is absurd.
Yeah.
So
well, in a similar note to that being the end of one team's era, clearly soon, maybe a little bit later on, there was also a Jay Cutler interview that was on ESPN 1000 recently, and it was, I think I heard most, I think I've actually listened to most of it just in the car. Jay's opinion of Justin Fields, he even said himself, they were like, they were going to be like, oh, so what do you think of the new quarterback? Same way they did with Mitch, whatever else. And he pretty much said that he didn't really watch like a bunch of his games. He'd seen like a couple. Like he obviously thinks he's super talented. You're not going to say anything bad about a rookie quarterback coming in, let's be honest. Like even if it was going to come out. But his opinion, which I thought was more interesting, was that absolutely do not start him week one. Let Andy Dalton play. Let him watch. And this is his opinion. And obviously, given context of being in Chicago and coming in as a promising, talented prospect, and then getting blown up behind terrible lines for years, and
terrible lines and not great. It's not like we
supporting
gave him
cast.
It's not like we gave him like this fantastic wide receiving core and everything. Like,
and a new offensive coordinator every single year. Mike Tice, total trash. Take your pickings. He had Adam Gase for 1 year that was good as an offensive coordinator, and then basically 7 years of trash. But I thought it was really interesting because he was very adamant. He's like, he likes Matt Nagy, which I thought was interesting too. I didn't think that would be his personality type, but now I kind of see it saying it as that.
The other thing that you have to realize though is teams like players like Matt Nagy because Matt Nagy's a good team coach.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even during the seasons where they weren't great, like these last two, the last season where they weren't great, a lot of the talk was on Nagy. It wasn't really on the players that much. So that's the players enjoy
They
that.
love
They
that.
like when a coach, yeah, they love when a coach is able to, be like, hey, listen, I'm making this more about me and not about you guys. You guys keep working. Like, teams will play it like, and that's why I'm not out on Matt Nagy as much as I was before. I kind of overreacted. Shocker, Bears fan overreacting to the season.
I
that
mean,
we
it's
had.
hard not to with what you were seeing, but like, I'm of the same volition. Like, I want, like, 2018 was obviously like a stupid amount of fun, and like him being coach was a huge part of that and everything. I really just want to completely full Kool-Aid believe that they were so limited by Trubisky's inability to read a defense and just execute the offense that he's still a good coach. The offense makes sense. And from what I've seen, just watching different film videos on the side and everything, receivers were open. They were open consistently. The scheme was working. They just could not get hit for the life of them. So I hope that's the case.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, there was plenty of times where receivers coming across the middle of the field and Trubisky doesn't see him, or he sees him too late. And those are the kind of situations where, if you had Tom Brady on the team, he's picking apart every single defense with that offense. Because if you look at the offense that the Bears have, they have a ridiculous amount of weapons. I mean, you can say all you want about, the offense was anemic last year. Yeah, it was because our offensive line was injured, which hurts everything. And then on top of it, you had bad quarterback play, which doesn't help at all on top of that. So yeah, of course our offense looked bad. But if you look at our offense as a whole, I mean, look at this year. We have at wide receiver, Allen Robinson, one of the most underappreciated, represented, every word you could think of in the league, because he's literally one of the best receivers in the league, and this man would have 1,600 yards every single year if he had a decent quarterback throwing him the ball. He's had literally Blake Bortles and Trubisky throwing him the ball most of the time. So yeah, of course his numbers are down, and his numbers aren't even really that down. He's still 1,000-yard receiver every year. So you have Allen Robinson. Then you have next to him Darnell Mooney, who is a really, really like mature route running rookie for how old he is and everything like that. Just an incredibly mature route runner. He makes the moves that he puts on are veteran moves, and his speed paired with all of that, plus his catching ability, and he's not afraid to go up and get one. He's going to be kind of an Emmanuel Sanders type, which is what I've always been saying the whole time that I've been watching him. He reminds me a lot of Emmanuel Sanders, even a little bit of Brandon Cooks. So he's a great wide receiver and up and coming. And he's got another year of learning under his belt and a whole offseason in the Bears offense to help too. And then you also throw in guys like Godwin, Goodwin, who's just an incredible speedster. Then you throw in Bird, who's an incredible speedster. Anthony Miller, if he decides to actually start playing like Anthony Miller can. Then
It's a contract year for the money. Hope so.
Exactly. Listen, I'll take it. And then you have, then you look at running back. You have Dave Montgomery, Dave Montgomery might not have that home run speed where he breaks one for, 75 yards on a run. And yeah, he did have a breakout run last year in one of the runs, but he doesn't have that speed that's going to break away from guys that's going to, explosive kind of speed. He doesn't have that, but what he does have is an incredible running ability, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. You just didn't see much of it last year because running backs routes usually take a little bit longer to develop than wide receiver routes. And so you're not going to see that, especially because if they're checkdowns and stuff like that. So now when you have an offensive line that's healthy and back and ready, and then maybe Justin Fields, who comes in later in the season, who can move around and extend plays, you'll see David Montgomery make more catches. Then you have Tariq Cohen coming back, who a lot of people forget. Tariq Cohen is a big part of that offense. He can run the slot receiver. He can run, routes out of the backfield. He's an explosive runner. He's also an explosive return man. So you have that coming back into that offense. That's your running back core. Then you throw Damian Williams in there as well. And then you throw Khalil Herbert, you just drafted on there too, who is also a multi-talented guy, being a returner, a pass catcher out of the backfield, and a runner. So that's a great running back core right there. Great wide receiving core. Then you have Cole Kmet, And then behind Cole Kmet, you have Jimmy Graham. Yeah, Jimmy Graham's not spectacular, and there was plenty of times where I just wanted to punch Jimmy Graham in the face because
he's a red zone killer, though.
Yeah, but he is great in the red zone. And he also is helping Cole Kmet develop. And Cole Kmet, I think, will develop into a good tight end in this league. So you have right there 2 good tight ends with some good depth there as well. Then you look at the offensive line. The offensive line, you have at left tackle now, Tevin Jenkins, who, yeah, he's a rookie, so he's going to take a little bit to develop. So don't be surprised if he gets blown by a couple of times this year. He's not spectacular in pass coverage. That's really where he really needs to, or pass protection. That's where he needs to improve on. His run blocking is great, but his pass protection needs to get better. So if you see him get blown by, don't freak out. But you have Tevin Jenkins, who's a great up and coming left tackle. You then have James Daniels coming back, who is a great left guard when he's playing healthy.
Yep.
Mustafa coming in at center, who played really well at center and kind of anchored that offensive line. You then have Cody Whitehair sliding over to guard, which is where I think he really should be in his career. So that's a great offensive line right there. Plus you have, potentially an Ifedi, Wilkinson, Borum, kind of battling it out for the right tackle position. And either way that plays out, you're going to get a guy who deserves the job. So you're happy with that offensive line. So it's just, like, this team is not a team that you're talking about being bad. It's just that they haven't had a good quarterback to actually see open routes, to see guys coming out of the backfield, to make the threat of running. Because a lot of times too, Trubisky didn't. It was like one year he ran a ton, and then the next year it was like he was trying to just be a pocket passer and was like never going to run with the ball. And then the other thing too that you forget about is that, on first down, when Trubisky would try to make something happen and then just immediately get sacked, for like a 7-yard loss because he wouldn't get rid of the ball for the life of him. That's not something that Justin Fields is going to do. Justin Fields will get rid of the ball. He will make something happen. So things like that are going to go away. So you'll stop ending up in 2nd and 20, like they would all the time. So, and then discipline too, they're playing with each other. They have an off season and everything like that. You'll see less of those penalties that were happening on that offensive line more now that they're all healthy and we have some depth. So again, all of those are reasons why I agree with what Jay Cutler said. You don't start him week 1, but it's also, Matt Nagy and everything like that. It's a very, very good offense that Justin Fields is walking into. And that's why I've heard some people say that out of the quarterbacks that were drafted, that they think that if the quarterback was to succeed the most, it's probably going to be Justin Fields because of how good the team was. I mean, we were 8-8 last year and made the playoffs with Trubisky, Nick Foles battling it out to see who was going to be the worst quarterback for our team. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things I think I also read recently was there was an interview, I think, post the Eagles playoff loss. I think it was Chris Long. It was on his podcast or something he was doing. I think he was retired at that point. But they basically said that it didn't even matter that the kick didn't go in. The Bears weren't going anywhere simply because their offensive line was so soft and there was nobody that anybody was scared of. They didn't have any maulers. Kyle Long was literally a shell of himself at that point. He didn't say at that point. That was just more of an observation. But they didn't have anyone that was really going to push them like that. Charles Leno, an average left tackle, wasn't really that guy that was going to scare people and everything.
Well, he was also undersized. I mean, he really should have been playing his entire career at left guard, and he was playing left tackle because we forced him kind of into the position. But I mean, he was a 6'3", 300-pound left tackle. That's small. That's a left guard.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of gives me hope is that they, I guess, I've gone back and forth on what they were going to do with the offensive line this year, but it gives me hope that they were willing to just cut it that early. Okay, we can't, this isn't working. We've had years of it trying to work. We need to try and get someone who is hopefully a mauler like Jenkins coming in there and starting immediately out the gate and kind of run with it and hope Mustafa and everyone else just plugs and play pretty well. I mean, when they were together last year, minus Jenkins, obviously, they were pretty good. The only problem is everyone got injured and everyone suffered as a result. So I just thought that part was interesting as well, because if that's the case, it makes me feel a little bit better, a little bit easier to stomach everything. I don't necessarily disagree with it because I was watching that game in person and they were getting absolutely manhandled. Even the Eagles' defensive line was really good that year. That was one of the good parts of the team that kind of compensated for their other weaker areas. But yeah, if that's something that they were thinking and the rest of the front office has that in mind, good on them, because if you need to start that immediately, might as well get into that. and then hopefully year 2, wherever Jenkins is at, that could be a really stout line, a year 2 of Justin Fields and the rest of the team coming together, and they're going to go in with a bunch of money. Yes, they have players to re-sign as well, but they're in a good spot and they have a lot of flexibility, especially if the cap continues to move up as well.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, the cap exploding up like it is, contracts like Khalil Mack's contract and everything don't look as bad because ultimately at the end of the day, Khalil Mack was rated the second best pass rusher in the entire league last year. So if he was to come back this year and play, as well as he did last year or even better, because finally maybe you see some production out of Robert Quinn, yeah, that'll help incredibly. So
Yeah. Okay. That was more Bears news. I saw this a little bit.
yeah, this is just something I just wanted to highlight real quick. I really want Joe Burrow to succeed because I really like Joe Burrow, and I even liked him back in his Ohio State days when he was there competing. I thought he deserved to compete for at least the job. He lost it out to Dwayne Haskins, which you might laugh and be like, "Wow, I can't believe he lost the job to Dwayne Haskins." But Dwayne Haskins threw 51 touchdowns that year, so
Right.
did he lose the job to a guy who was bad or whatever? No. So overall, you're okay with it. But yeah, it's one of those where I'm always going to hope for Joe Burrow to succeed. And this year they didn't get Joe Burrow protection that was right there available in the draft. So we'll see how that goes. But
You see that brace on his knee right there?
yep.
Yeah, that looks well, I don't really know what it does, so I'm not gonna pretend to, but it doesn't look good. That's all.
Well, it's just helping to secure it and everything like that and keep it, sturdy. But yeah, it's one of those where he's it's good in him to show up to the OTAs and everything. He doesn't need to be there because he is only at 85% or whatever, but it's still it's good for him to show up. It shows leadership and everything like that. I just hope that he doesn't get killed again like he did this year with his offense line not being that great last year.
Yeah, that would be kind of disappointing. I feel like everyone kind of wants to see that, even though, like, obviously not a Bengals fan or anything, but it'd be kind of cool to see him come up slowly. Everything else going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good point. I mean, he's well on his way and ready to start and be good to go and everything. But, I mean, that it's going to be interesting. You were talking about how they drafted wide receiver instead, and I was like, oh, it seemed like everyone else thought they were going to go with the line, and that seemed like the obvious thing to do. But see how that pays off, I guess, in the long run.
Yep, I had them drafting Jamar Chase because it's one of those where one of the reasons why I had him going right there to the Bengals is because not only was he an LSU guy and all that, but Zach Taylor is an offensive coach, and pairing a duo like uh, Chase with Burrow, who have such good chemistry, from their college days, is something that was just too good to pass up, basically, by them. And then on top of it, it's one of those where, yeah, they definitely needed the pass protection. You could argue that that obviously would have been the best move, but it's one of those where maybe if they feel okay with the offense line that they're having walking in there, maybe they're okay with it. I don't know. It's one of those where and then the other thing too that I will say is that I am a big fan of Peter Schrager. Peter Schrager makes his mock drafts based on what teams are saying rather than just evaluation of prospects, which
Yeah.
a lot of times is the way that you have to do it because teams most of the time are not just they're not evaluating players on how good they are, but they're also evaluating on like fits and like what they want and everything like that and who they like, as opposed to maybe who even be the better prospect. So, just as one of those where he does, listening to what teams are saying rather than just the evaluation of the player can kind of help guide you to what the team is most likely going to do in the draft. And that's why I thought they were going to go with Jamar Chase, and they did.
Yeah. And since we're going with fun things as well, Adam Vinatieri retired today. That was announced.
Yeah,
So this is a cool little thing.
He retired, I think, live on the Pat McAfee show too, which is unsurprising at all. So
yeah,
but
sticking up for the fellow kickers and all that,
yeah, but it's also understandable why he would do that, because he's, one of the greatest kickers of all time, but he is old, and it's gotten to a point now where it's like, maybe he just doesn't need to keep doing that, over and over again. So what's happened?
I'm trying to figure that part out on the side right now. That's actually what I was kind of looking at. It got bad.
I see what was occurring. Oh, we're back.
Are we? Oh, okay. I guess we are now.
Look at that.
I think that did come back. I thought that was just loading, but that was something weird, I think, maybe on my side. You have some graphical fidelity issues going on here.
Yeah, I don't know what was just happening, but it was going a little haywire.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's stabilized now. So this is a cool little post. Credit to the user, Why Don't You Love Me? That's a great username. So it was with Adam Vinatieri's retirement today. The NFL, for the first time since September 7th, 1986, does not have an active player who has tackled Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker's career began with the game against the Giants September 8th, 1986. He carried the ball 10 times for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. His career ended on January 5th, 1997, where he carried the ball 0 times, was not targeted in the playoff loss to Carolina. And between those 2 dates, Adam Vinatieri kicked the ball off in the first quarter of the December 15th, 1996 game between the Patriots and the Cowboys. Walker received the ball on the 11-yard line. After an untouched 70-yard return, rookie kicker Adam Vinatieri closed the gap and utilized his closing speed to tackle Walker at the 20-yard line. Thus, today, 8,928 days after that game, the final active player to tackle Herschel Walker has departed the league.
That's a wild, like, it was one of those things that, like, you didn't need to be that extra, but we went there.
Yeah.
And that's wild. I mean, that's pretty crazy. It is crazy to see an NFL team league without Adam Vinatieri in it, because he's been there for just so long and so good for so long. But it is one of those where, dude's like 48 years old. He needs to hang it up, enjoy a retirement. You've won enough, so.
Yeah, he was clearly in decline, but I'm of the kind of mindset that apparently a lot of other players wouldn't be. I feel like you'd want to play until you are bad. Like, I feel like you wouldn't want to retire early, and then people will always be like, oh, well, what if you played a couple extra years? Like, that would have been so great. I think it makes a little bit more sense to just literally play yourself out if that's what you want to do. I never really got that. I think that's more interesting too.
No, you just go out on your own terms. If you feel like you've basically, the way that it works with retirement is the question that you should be asking if you're trying to retire is, do you feel like you're going out having accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish? And if that's the way that it is, and you feel that is true, then yeah, go for it. Go ahead and retire. Be happy with your retirement. That's why even Pat McAfee talks about retiring early from the NFL. And he said that basically he retired early from the NFL because he felt like he just didn't want to do it anymore. Oh boy. Oh,
that's a really interesting one. Wow.
Oh,
what the hell is that?
What's happening? I've become an art project.
Is there like a static signal in the area? Oh my god.
What has happened?
Hold on.
Pod breaking down.
Refresh the cache of the current page. Okay. Oh, that's good. I'm going to know that for the future. That seems to have helped.
I'm back to nope. No. There we go. We're gone. Oh my god.
Now we're back again? What is that? Okay.
Dude, I don't know.
Do you have like a magnet near you or something?
No.
I
haven't changed anything.
Very interesting. Okay, great.
Weird.
All right, continuing on from that then. Yeah. I think that concludes the NFL news. The only thing I'll say is that I kind of want to bring this up at the same time too. It's kind of circling back in some ways. Basically, Alex Smith touched on Aaron Rodgers saying that the way that the team treated him was inexcusable, which I feel like is pretty interesting language from Alex Smith, who seems very milquetoast on most things. He said when Kansas City drafted Mahomes, Smith says he was in the loop the entire time of the draft process. So
yeah,
I just wanted to add that a little bit on the end there.
Dylan, let's be real. Do you know what the Bears did when they drafted Justin Fields?
I think they called Andy, didn't they?
Yeah, they called Andy Dalton, it's not like Andy deserved it. It's not like he was there as like the starter for the last 10 years. Like they called him just because that was the right thing to do. just like, hey, we're drafting a guy that's going to compete with you for the job, so like, be prepared for that. So
Yeah, which is like, I mean, that seems like what you would do. I don't know why the Packers wouldn't do that, but sorry, this jumped up on the screen a little bit earlier. This was also just released a little bit ago, about the McCaskies potentially selling the Bears, which is really strange timing. Considering you think you're going and doubling down on like a new era where your team would actually grow crazily in value if they actually had a good quarterback and could win. I don't know what you think about that. Are they short on cash and stuff? They need some liquidity. Like, where is that coming from?
I mean, it could just be that they're just done. Like they're, we've been. I mean, how many years have we been saying that they need to sell the team? So could be one of those where they're just done. They're just ready to move on. They've made millions and millions upon billions of dollars, and they're just like, all right, we're old. We every year the fans basically call for our heads, so we should probably just
give them what they want.
Yeah, just deuces. I'm out. See you guys. Have fun with your team, which I would be happy for because honestly, the way that it's been run has not been great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, just interesting little tidbit. I don't really put too much stock into it, honestly. There's all the stuff about like the Bears moving to Arlington Heights as, just sell pressure for Soldier Field to be looked at, amended, etc. So probably a nothing burger there, but just thought I'd bring it up as well. So I want to fix your camera on the side. That's a very strange thing.
With it today. Oh man, just live issues. This is what happens.
This is a weird one. This one hasn't come up. I could change something back that I think might have done it, but it was good for like a good hour there. So I guess we'll roll with it. The Eternals released their first trailer.
Yes, I am excited for this. I really, I'll admit I don't know too much about the Eternals, nor do I really I haven't read their comics or anything like that. Like I read like Spider-Man comics and I've read other comics in the Marvel, universe. So I'm familiar with most of the Marvel universe, but there's a good chunk of it that I'm not. And this is one of that chunk. I really didn't know much about the Eternals. So it's one of those where I'm like, when I saw the project announced, I was, okay, great. I'm excited, but what is this that I'm watching? And so if you're also like me and had no idea what they were watching or what this movie was, essentially what these are is this is a group of people that was created by the Celestials. And if you remember, one of the Celestials was Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which was what's his face's dad?
Chris Pratt's Star-Lord's dad.
Star-Lord's dad, yeah. Star-Lord's dad was Ego, who's one of the Celestials. Celestials are the beings that basically kind of like they're the most powerful beings that existed at the beginning of time in the Marvel universe and, will always exist essentially unless they're killed in some weird, meaningful way, such as Ego. But essentially, that's the way they are. They're Celestials. They created a couple different races, one being the Eternals. And the Eternals they all have powers, and if you look at them, they're all like, kind of Justice League-y type of feel to them where, somebody can fly, somebody has super speed, somebody's got, is good with machines and stuff, somebody's good at controlling minds. Like they all have certain powers that make them, unique. But what's kind of fun about them is that they've been around for centuries and millennia. And so in the Marvel universe, they have their hands in majority of things that happen as far as like influencing different civilizations, helping out in different ways to advance them. And that's why you see, for instance, they show, I can't remember all of their names, and that's going to be a problem. But they show some of them basically a part of cultures, and that's why like their ethnicities kind of reflect the ethnicities of the areas that they influence. So that also plays a factor into it. And essentially, that's what they are. They just are beings that live forever and have all of these abilities, and they help to influence or guide humans, and they really don't interact or basically participate in wars and things that we have. but they do their best to basically help us along as advances in technology and watching over us. There's questions to be asked, of course, in how or why they weren't present during the whole what's it called? The whole happening in
Avengers
the
Infinity War. Thank you for the
Infinity
Falcon
War.
part, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. But the whole Infinity War and all that, those are questions where were they, that kind of thing. And I'm sure that'll be addressed or at least referenced. But essentially that's what the Eternals are. They're just powerful beings. Now the other thing too is while they were also made by the Celestials also made the Deviants, is what they're called. And the Deviants, they're another group of people that are seen as more like evil-ish, I guess, in the comics, opposed to the Eternals. One of the Deviants, or somebody that is part Deviant, would be Thanos, for instance. So, that kind of obviously shows that there, as far as the power and the ability to wield the, Infinity Stones. That was, part, it was because he was part, Deviant, part, Eternal, Celestial, whatever. So there's all that. So I'm curious as to see what's going to happen. They fight a lot in the comics, from what I gather, with the Deviants, so that could be a major part of the plot. Now, there was a bunch of things in the trailer that were interesting. One, I don't know if did you see all of like the Captain America references, which were weird, like the Shield references?
The Shield?
So,
No, the comment at the end, like about who's going to lead the Avengers. That's what were you talking about?
no, so if you look back at the trailer, because I watched like a breakdown of the trailer, there's parts in the trailer where essentially, if you look at like the shields that people are using in the background, they literally, like, they're metal shields that don't have color to them, but the shapes that are on the shields, they're like concentric rings with like a star in the center. And they're like, so like that's obviously hardcore inspired by like the, Captain America shield. And then if you look at, there's a scene where the the shorter, smaller one that looks like a kid, but it's obviously like, immortal. Um, she is like getting drunk on like a train or something, and Captain America's like shield from when he was like not like he was like a fake Captain America doing like all the advertising and stuff. He appeared, or that shield is like in the background of the shot, like just sitting like on like the mantle and
Oh,
stuff.
really?
Yeah, there's like four different references to like Captain America's shield and the thing, which is like interesting. But that was kind of odd. That was kind of a fun part. So when you go and watch the trailer again, look out for those, because it's pretty funny to see them. And then and I think the shield that's in that when she's getting drunk on the train, the shield's like on the top right part of the screen.
I know,
So
I'm
when
looking
you're
at that scene right now and I'm like, did you see it in... Oh, okay. I could see it. Yeah, I had to bend back a little bit, but yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Some like weird references to it, which is like fun, because I guess like obviously the Avengers would be happening at this point in time during the universe. So like, why wouldn't the Eternals know about it or be participating in it potentially? So that's
I
unsurprising.
hope it's a like they're like she's a fangirl, fanboy, like they fanboy more like it's a TV show and a movie in the same way that we do. And I have a feeling that's what it's going to be like based on the comment of like who's going to lead the Avengers or whatever. That's where I think they're going with it, which would be a great angle to both put it into perspective how little that conflict meant to them and maybe explain a little bit more. But yeah, that little name drop, I thought that was funny. So I hope that's the angle they take with it.
Like I said, I'm curious as to how it'll all be, because the other thing too is you have to like the way that you go about improving like on the next phases of the Marvel universe and get to a point where you're surpassing what you did with Thanos and Infinity War and all that, which was 11 years of building to get to a crazy point. You have to up the ante somehow. Now, the way that works is bringing in groups like the Eternals, who are super powerful and everything. But my question is like, I'm curious to see like how they fit in, because like if that's the case, and they just didn't really care to interact and it was more of like a show for them, then like my question is like what gives them incentive to do it in the future? So like you really have to up the ante then for them to participate in the future.
Yeah.
And then my mind goes to like, well, if they're that powerful, like wouldn't they just be like, wouldn't they not need like Spider-Man and stuff? Because like, they're too powerful anyways. So I'm curious to see how, because that's the problem in the comics, unfortunately, when you start bringing in this whole thing. And they did such a good job of it in like the first, obviously, for 3 phases or whatever that led to Infinity War and all that. But they did a great job of like balancing out like, okay, who, like, yeah, we have these super powerful beings and all that, but like they're able to play their part in stopping Thanos, whereas like the Eternals, I feel like, would probably just stop them. Like, I feel like they are powerful enough to do it. So like, how do you balance that with like the superheroes you already have established that maybe aren't that great? So
Yeah, power leveling and all that. I'm curious how they do that too, because immediately as soon as I heard of this movie being announced, I was like, okay, like that's cool, but what are they like? What matches up against them? What's their incentives? Like, at what point are we going to get to the point where it's like just gods, because that's like the top level you could do, and then then it's questions like, oh, who cares about what's below them?
Well, that's why like getting Thor even was like, even before it was like, how are you going to balance Thor being a part of a group of people like Iron Man and stuff? But like they did such a good job of it. But then again, that's only one man and one person. Whereas like, how do you balance that with, literally a group of them that are literally just made to be immortal gods, in the comics? And how am I going to take Blade seriously, who's a half vampire, half human, like in the same universe as like these literal gods? I don't know. We'll see how they balance it. They probably have a plan, I would presume. They've done this before, so
Yeah.
not like they're not going into it with a plan. So I'm sure they have something to make it all enticing and reasonable. But it does raise questions of like, what is going to make them? Because like if you watch this trailer, there's really not a lot of like, this is the bad guy, this is who they're going against. Like the whole trailer is like, hey, here's them, like, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like who are they going against? Like what's the conflict here? Like who's big enough and bad enough to force them to have to fight? Like, it's just, there's a lot of questions that the trailer arises, but also a lot of questions that intrigue me and make me excited to watch it, because it's a whole different part of the universe that I don't really know too well. So
And it's like the
yeah,
same
it's
sort of
just,
question that they've had ever since the Avengers. Is like, oh, okay, this story's happening, and it's like an apocalyptic event. Like, where are the Avengers? Like, why doesn't that come up? So I imagine they've had years to address it, and I'm sure it'll come up for some reason. You would think.
yeah. Well, and it's just, like I said, it's going to be a tough challenge for them to balance superheroes like Spider-Man, who you would expect to be a big part of the Avengers moving forward because of how they did it in Far From Home and everything. You would in almost basically him taking over for Iron Man is essentially like kind of replacing that role, is what they were really referencing literally the entire Far From Home movie.
Yeah.
So like it's one of those where how do you balance him being there when you have all of these people who are literal immortal beings that could care less about, if it really is that they couldn't care less about Thanos and that's why they didn't participate, like then like what power level is it going to have to be for the bad person, the bad guy, to make them come out and fight? And then is that power level going to be to a point that like having Spider-Man's basically inevitable, or not even reasonable? So
Yeah.
it's interesting. We'll see how they balance it. The other thing I do want to point out that I saw in their breakdown, and I watched, for everyone out there that's interested, I watched the new Rockstars breakdown of it. New Rockstars is an awesome YouTube channel that breaks down all this stuff and gives you all the nerd stuff that you love. So I watch their breakdowns of the trailers and everything, so I know at least enough where I go into it understanding all the references, which helps me enjoy the movie more, I feel. And part of what they were saying too that I thought was interesting was they were talking about how in the Black Panther movie, which we talked about in our last podcast coming up, is based around the Wakandans battling the Atlanteans. And I guess there was references in this where potentially maybe we're seeing how the Celestials failed human society basically when the Atlanteans were basically not defeated, but like not defeated or erased, but like pushed to the sea kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, or the city of Atlantis was pushed underwater kind of thing, and they failed them. So, like maybe we see that in there, and then also there's like a scene where there's a knife being exchanged, and people thought that knife looked a lot like the tip of the spear, the trident that the king of Atlantis uses. So maybe that plays a role. It's interesting. I'm really intrigued. There's a whole lot of ways that this can go, and it's a group of people or beings that people really, the common Marvel enjoyer doesn't really know at all. So they can go a lot of different ways, and they can play it a lot of different ways. So I'm just intrigued to see what it is, and if it's one of those where this is one of those reasons why Superman is always kind of an issue, because Superman's just so powerful that you're like, what can really be like that threatening to him?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's always hard to watch like Superman stuff or Superman be a part of, because you're like, yeah, he's cool and all that, and yeah, obviously he's iconic, but it's just like, like is there really going to create a villain that's bad enough to like make a difference and be like good enough to fight against him? So with this, I'm kind of hoping that is able to play out.
Yeah. Yep. And if you usually do like villains like that, I feel one of the more interesting ways is to make it not about like fighting. I'm trying to think. There was a perfect example in my head and snapped away, but it wasn't so much about being able to like fight them or like battle them or whatever. It was more about like what they could do and kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it was hurting people around you. There was some movie that did this really well. It's going to come to me after this is over, but not making it about fighting exclusively because that's too easy. More of making it about something entirely different, which I feel like that's what they would go with a movie like this, maybe, or something similar. But yeah, and also, boom, Jon Snow's in this movie too. Just wanted to point that part out. That part was really cool.
Yeah, I heard he's like somebody. He's like called the Black Knight
Black
or
Knight.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to get a really cool sword, and it's like a sword. It's a sword that can cut through anything, I believe, anything except for a mark like one or two things in the world. So, kind of a cool character progression. He kind of gets a reboot and to get into like being able to fulfill that sword character type of demographic. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I don't think he was supposed to be. I don't know if he was supposed to be in this movie. I thought he was supposed to be getting his own side movie or something. I was surprised he popped up in this because I don't think he was supposed to be in it. I think it was more of a cameo. Could be wrong.
No. Either way, I'm excited to see it. Good actors, you make a good movie, and I'm all here for it.
Yeah, so him along with Rob Stark get to do their Game of Thrones thing once more.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't have any other stories off the top. Is there anything off the top of your head?
No, that's it. I'm my camera's starting to go purple again.
You also have worked for like 14 hours or whatever.
Yeah, I worked 12-hour shift today, so a bit tired, but yeah, no, I got everything out that I wanted to talk about, and this week I feel like it was a little lighter for topics, but there was also some like fun meme ones that popped up. So next week, again, another list of topics will bring more fun stories, more fun little things that we'll each teach each other about. And I'm always excited for it, and I'm always here for it.
Yeah, we might have a guest appearance on the show, something different. So
that would be
stay
fun.
tuned with that.
Segment.
Yeah. If you have not already, please drop a follow on the channel. Also, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are one away from 20 subscribers. Passed over 1,000 views. I think 1.1 thousand views over the past 28 days. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And follow the Twitter for any more announcements of when we go live. Usually it's about the same time anyways. But yeah, that's pretty much what we got going on.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us and supporting us and talking in the chat. And feel free to make comments on anything we say in the chat in the future. And I look forward to next week's podcast with more topics and more fun.
Yep, and that was May 26th. Drop your ideas or anything else in chat or in comments. So have a good night. Yep. Take care.
Good night, everybody.